Just so you guys know, this story is more high stakes than two New York strips hotboxing a Subaru, so get prepared. Thank you. All right, so I grew up in a small town called Portage, Michigan, about 50,000 people, and if we all know what small towns go hand in hand with, it's about a bunch of cops, more than you'd care for. There's about 50,000 people, and there's about 75,000 cops on the road, right? So I'm having a normal day. It's winter break. We're hungover, a bunch of teens hanging out in a basement. And it was the one day that we actually weren't drinking because the next day was Christmas Eve. We had to get with our families. It was a ton of fun. This was back in 2016. So, of course, it's a sober day, and we had been watching movies all day in the basement. We think to ourselves, man, we should probably go outside and get some fresh air because it smells like BO in this basement. We haven't moved in 48 hours. We go outside. And we get in the car, and we just decide to drive down the road. We decide to take a walk. Now, I need some audience interaction here. Who here has ever drawn a dick? Just a dick. Just one penis. Yep. Okay, I see a few hands. For those of you who didn't raise your hands, I know you're lying. All right, fantastic. Now, as young boys, of course, we were obsessed with drawing phalluses. So what do? We get out of our car. We're down the road from my dad's house, and we decided to start walking. It's the middle of winter. Again, it's winter break, and there's snow on the ground. We're walking down this street, and we see a beautiful fence, and on that fence are some lights, Christmas lights. And we decide to take the lights off of the fence in this nice elderly woman's home, and we decide to lay them out in the size of a 50-foot penis in her front lawn, and we decide to make sure it looks extra nice, got all the details, the veins, etc. We go ahead and we make sure that nobody's watching, except a car drove by when we were doing it, so we all hid behind the trees. And then we came back out, we thought we were clear. We looked at what we had done, we realized it was a beautiful specimen, we made our way back to the car. Now the car was parked on top of a hill, and we head back to the top of the hill, and we see at the top of the hill, there's police lights. So we think to ourselves, oh my God, there's police lights, like we're gonna get in trouble, we're gonna go to jail. Immediately, that's the thought process. Now again, we were 18 years old, but all of us were completely sober. There was no reason to freak out. The cops probably would just made us put the lights back and we would have been fine. Again, in our heads, we decided to run. So we sprinted into the woods. Now, mind you, we hadn't seen any cops, just the lights. We went into the bottom of these woods and we looked up at the hill where our car was parked, and we saw at the top of the hill slowly, over the course of 5 minutes, 12 police cars show up. 12. Mind you, we're 6 kids, completely sober. It's the middle of winter. That just means that these cops have nothing better to do. So we end up hiding in this neighbor's yard for about 15 minutes, and then we notice that all the cops get out of their cars, they turn their flashlights on, and they start walking into the woods like a sweeping search, right? They're about 50 feet apart from each other, and they're all going like this, looking around, calling out. And so we decide, what's best to do? Run. So we run in different directions. Now, you should never run from the police, right? So we start sprinting. I was actually the only one that made it away. The rest of my friends got caught. And 2 of them went on 6-month probation, unfortunately. I knew a friend that lived a neighborhood over from myself, so I actually ran through a frozen river in my sweatpants, in my shoes, my Converse at the time, not the same pair. But I ran through the frozen river, showed up at my friend's house, and stayed put despite my dad and the police calling me on my cell phone. I stayed there till 6 a.m. and then did the walk of shame back home to where my friends were. The police had left at that point. They told me what had happened. And I realized in that moment again that it was 6 months of probation that I had just saved myself from, so I was pretty happy. My friends, of course, were not. The police had asked us to do one other thing besides the probation that my friends got. They asked us to go back to the home because an elderly woman, again, had lived there. They said we needed to go back and apologize to her for what we had done. So I go back to the home with my friends. There's about 6 of us. The dick is still in the lawn. The police officers decided not to touch that, which is okay. We put the dick back on the fence, not as a dick, in Christmas tree formation. And we decided to make sure that, again, everything was set in stone. Now, we conversed. We were like, do we really need to go apologize to this old lady? We could just leave, and they'll never know. We did the right thing. I like to say that I was the one that convinced everybody to go back and apologize. But, of course, it was another friend of mine. We went up to the door. We knocked. We knocked on the door, and the old lady, the oldest lady I've ever seen, opens the door. Just like if you breathe too hard, she might fall back, right? She opens the door. We apologize. We say, hey, ma'am, we're so sorry. We didn't mean anything by this. We were just, again, having fun, having a good time out on the street. We wanted to make sure that we came up to you and apologized because we realized that we probably woke you up and we caused you a fright with all the police officers, and we were just trying to have a good time. She looked at us and she said, in my 89 years of life, I have never had anybody do something so disrespectful to me, and started to cry a little bit. Like there was a little tear. There was a little tear. No tears came down, but then she looked at us, she winked with the other eye and said, but that's the biggest cock I've ever seen. Thank you.